Hello there, and welcome to the Dance of the Soul. Regan and I really love to be here with you, and we're grateful to be a voice for a perspective, a perception, a knowing, a wisdom. That word just came out of just being in life. And our intention is to be here with and for to give enlightenment in life. We're ones that have some knowings. Now, Regan, you have been here, in life for, several
Oh, wow.
years.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for the wisdom that you have collected over your years because you have gone from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And now you doing hypnotherapy with the Newton Institute, and plus you do other kind of counseling, that your perspective gives an enlightenment. And I know that your world is starting to really awaken up to my world, which is the psychic, the medium, the intuitive. Sometimes I feel like intuitive doesn't necessarily give me the depth that I am. So I'm kind of maybe dancing with the psychic part of it. But, there's that part of me that knows about life. And me being one who witnessed my soul coming through the body, coming into this lifetime, and then remembering a lot of things that happened before this life. And I can dance to the other side pretty quickly with other people's past lives and Akashic records and all the cliche words that you want to go with. That our perspective together brings a uniqueness with the dance of the soul. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for, is that unique dance of the soul. And the dance of soul, we chose that name. And we haven't really visited this lately. And I wanted to kind of revisit it. Why do we call it the dance of the soul? Well, it's the dance. Our soul goes through so many lifetimes, and it does it even in this lifetime that this physical body is attached, that it kind of does a little dance of what is it, the lessons, experiences that it's going through. And so the dance of the soul kind of sung true to what our story is, what our mission is to help people go through the dance of the soul, of this physical body's life. And we're hope to be here and support you in this journey. So remember, your truth is your truth. Ours is just a perspective to give enlightenment to maybe a journey that you're going through right now. Right, Regan?
Right. Yeah. I was talking recently to a client, a younger client, and he was so wanting to know everything now. I mean, he's that in that kind of spirit, which is great to see. But I cautioned him, like a very spiritual guru cautioned me when I was his age, that usually I mean, the best way to unfold spiritually is a piece at a time. you
Mm-hmm.
know and they would say if you really wished it and you got it, he said, you'd end up in a nut house, because it's just the energy. It's knowledge comes with energy, and if your
Yes.
physical vessel isn't ready for all that energy yet, is you're going to fry. So you just have to be patient and take a step forward in the spiritual realm, and just keep learning little by little by little by little.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while you'll get a whole bunch at once, but that means that the spirit knew you were ready for it,
Mm-hmm.
that you could handle it. um, I remember there was a spiritual leader of Eckankar called Sri Harold Klemp, and he wrote a book about his spiritual awakening. And when he took this giant step to be chosen from, he said, the inner worlds, to be ahead of this movement, in the new movement in America, there was so much energy that came through at that time that he ended up finding himself jumping off a bridge, and someone pulled him out. I forget how exactly it was. They put him in a crazy house for a little while, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just so much spiritual energy all at one time that his physical body couldn't handle it, and it took a while for him to integrate all of that. Um, and this is what, matter of fact, he talked about. He was this very spiritually aware, and is a spiritually aware person. He talked about in the Bible when St. Paul was struck down by the light, and then St. Paul ended up spending 40 days in the desert, or a long time in the desert. And he said it was the same kind of thing. The St. Paul, here was this man who was killing Christians, And then on the road to Damascus, I think it was, he got struck by the light, knocked him off his horse. And from that day forward, he was, uh, on the side of the Christians rather than crucifying them. But he
Mm-hmm.
had to take all that energy that he got from that enlightenment, and he had to go and spend some time away to let it all filter in for him
Integrate
to
in.
embody that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell some of your clients things sometimes, or when I have people that are in heaven on the other side, and they're going before a council or seeing the soul group, or getting some wisdom from over there, then they have to come back and integrate it into their lives. And sometimes it's not, like I talk to them months later and they go, oh my gosh, my whole life's in turmoil right now. And I try to prepare them for that. That sometimes with enlightenment, when you get to this next level on your mission or whatever you're doing, a lot of your old self has to fall away, like old clothes have to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that means jobs. Sometimes that means, relationships in your life, because those things don't fit you anymore,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
loss
Exactly.
on this path, don't you find out too, Natasha, that as a person progresses, um, they're, they shed like a snake shedding off old skin, it's like, just you need to do that to, renew. So down the line, when people look back and they go, oh my gosh, my life, that was horrible for a little bit. But they look back and they go, wow, that's the best thing really ever happened to me. Because now they're in
Exactly.
this new glow,
Exactly. And that's the thing is that today, Regan and I, we wanted to talk about finding our mission, finding our path. Many of us are kind of lost in what am I supposed to be here on this planet for? Well, what we just talked about is part of that path is the enlightenment that we come into. And I know for me that, a lot of this lifetime wasn't necessarily that I was learning, I was awakening. Oh, I know that. But it took a conversation to trigger that part of my knowing, to go, oh yeah. you know, and yet at the same time though, even just the experience that I had today with having an experience of learning and awakening, that it took me sitting with my body and saying, this is part of the journey. We're integrating it with love, grace, and ease, and including my body in that journey. And many of us forget to do that, forget that we're in this body form. And I talked to a client the other day, and they were saying that, oh, body, oh, I guess it is part of this journey, isn't it? It is. But that's part of finding the mission, is that many times we exclude the experiences that we have with our mind, body, spirit, and emotions to become the enlightened selves of ourselves, which is our mission. People a lot of times say that our mission is, big. Am I supposed to save the world? Am I supposed to do this? And I'm like going, no, actually, your theme is teacher.
Yeah,
Your theme is teacher,
yeah,
and a lot of teachers are people who are, they're manifestors, and so they're so in other words, that they are the people who do a lot of experiments. They start a lot of they start a lot of companies, and then they end, and they're a starter, and so their mission is to be sometimes starters and teachers, because they're teaching people how to start companies, and they're teaching people how to fail so they can learn how to succeed, to do different. And
yeah,
so with that a lot of, I think that there's a redefining we have to deal with in our mindset of the physicalness about what is our word of success, to find what our mission truly is called out to be for our soul.
yeah. So don't you think as human beings too, when you say mission, we think of like Mission Impossible or something. I mean, some big, huge thing that's going to happen in our life. But what I find when I help people get to heaven and they're there and they're before a council and they ask about their mission, 90% of the time it's something very simple.
Mhm.
Like, um, for instance, we mentioned about before about that, not a client of mine, but another therapist who, um, her whole reasoning for coming down was to learn patience, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then we found out that she's been learning that for like 500 years, just to be patient. So, but now I'm thinking too, I
But
think we
that's
can
not necessarily the mission. What is our
right.
mission? But yet it is.
Yeah. It's
That
like,
is our sole mission, is to find patience. Now, how that plays out is how we walk in life.
right. And it's funny. We're on the same wavelength there, because what I'm really realizing too, there's a difference between what we came down here to learn and our mission. Like she may have came down here to learn patience, but with that patience, she's able to be a co-worker more with people around her to accomplish her mission of being more patient with people, and how that affects them and makes them better people because she learned patience,
So
you know?
her mission could be being a co-supporter, a co-being, a
Yeah.
co-mingler, a co-interactiver. I'm not finding the right word,
Yeah.
but because it's not. That's the thing about missions. It's not a necessarily. It's not. It's a combination between doing and being. And a lot of us are about doing, but we forget about the being. But yet to be, we have to still do. And so it's
Yeah.
that it's the co-dance of being and doing. I wanted to say that with people who are watching this, I would love comments, because different uh, the perspectives and the perspective, it's all those different things. It's interesting to hear what different people are thinking about, because of the fact that this is a dance of how do we perceive this interaction, why we're here.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
One of my recent clients, when he asked up there, what was his mission? What's he supposed to do? And it was as simple as this. They said, we want you to affect people by the way you react to people, by
Mm,
your integrity, your honesty, your empathy that you have. And in other words, that just to go through and be kind of walking around in your higher self by being present with people, by having integrity, by being honest and all that. And that little bit that you did with each person, that's his mission.
mhm.
In other words, it wasn't some big old thing, it was just how he would act in his every day, whoever he would meet and everything.
So that would be,
Yeah.
to make it simple, it'd be teacher.
Yeah. He's a
It'd be
teacher
teacher
through,
experiences.
yes,
And
through showing how to be that way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that when we take the logistics off, now teacher or showing experience could be through a lot of different things. I've had people where I've gotten the word pot stirrer, a pot stir, one that likes to
Mm-hmm.
stir things up to get
Mm-hmm.
get people moving, and they go, "Oh, really? I mean, that's my life calling, is to be a pot stirrer, to make things uneasy for people."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, sorry, yeah.
And
But
have
you're
you?
good at it. And so,
Some people
but
are real good at it.
while you're doing it though, please check in with your intention. What is your intention when you're
Yeah.
going to do it?
Yeah.
Think about, is it to be a teacher during this moment, or is it to be unkind?
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing these simplistic-ishness thoughts, but yet actually in action, there's some of the hardest things we can be doing. You know that when we're going through life and doing things, that when we check in with our intention, that is the key to it. I know for me, I'm teacher. So me being a teacher, I constantly check into what is my intention.
Yeah, that's real important.
What is my intention with this teaching? Is it to plant seeds, or is it to be the one is the end all to be all for this person? And I
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to putting my ego on the back and put my ego to sit down and say, you know what? We're just going to be planting seeds. Now, for more than that, that's what the universe's plan is. So Veronica says, thank you,
Oh.
Veronica, for chiming in. I believe
I
I'm
love
here
her.
to learn, give, and receive. Maybe I would say so. And that's a lot. Sometimes our themes are about the breath in, breath out, to learn, to give, to learn, to give. And, getting down into that simplistic, it takes a lot of the pressure off of, oh man, I have this big job of la da 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 da. And for me, in my knowing, my soul has a lot of angel in her. And with that I felt the responsibility of being more angelic in my life. Well, I'm human. I'm
Yeah.
human. And taking myself off the pedestal when I learned that, and be sitting in the chair next to somebody else, I had no more responsibility for that person than me being human. The thing I had though was I was called to have a different integrity. And I know that because that somebody else can have a conversation about something, and if I had the same conversation, somebody would look at me and go, "What are you talking about?" So I know that I have to have a different integrity about how clean I stay in my
Yeah.
intention, in my rhythm. If that makes
It's
any
like,
sense.
I think the best way I've always learned is through people that just showed me through their acts, the way they behaved. And I learned from that. Like, maybe I mentioned it sometime in the last year, but it just was so cool when I think about it. Like, one of the biggest things I learned from my father was we were downtown Speedway, Indiana, right there by the big Indianapolis 500 Speedway.
Mhm.
He owned a store down there, just a little 5 and dime, tiny little store.
Mhm.
And uh, we shopped at some place, and then we were almost all the way home, which is about 3-4 miles away. And he realized there that the person had given him 10 cents too much change. And he realized that, and he turns around, drives all the way back there, and gave the person the 10 cents. And I'm like 9 years old then, maybe 8 or
Mhm.
9 years old. I remember that through adulthood.
Mhm.
I remember that, like, I mean, and so many times, maybe not as much as my dad, but I don't know how often he did that, if he did that all the time too, or just was showing me something, teaching me something. But more times than not, whatever the metaphor for the dime is, I'll take it back. And
Mhm.
there's something that just feels good about that. It makes you feel like you have honesty and integrity, and and that. So things like that was better than my dad setting me down and telling me to be honest. I got to see him do that
Mhm.
in his actions.
And
So
that's the thing, is actions really speak louder than words. They actually do. And I can't tell you that, like living, I tried to live by that as my husband through the 15, 20 years of alcoholism, show him how to treat me.
mhm.
Well, you can't do that with somebody who has not a full clean vision.
Yeah,
That full clean vision. Somebody who's extremely heartbroken, or in grief, or some kind of alcohol drugism, or whatever you want to call it. That there's these scenarios that happen, PSD kind of actions of abuse that happen, that you can't always show people how to be. You can speak it, but it is a combination. And there again was teacher. But sometimes teaching isn't about showing. Sometimes teaching is about showing and doing and saying and putting up boundaries
yeah. Hmm.
with love. There's the tough love boundaries.
Yeah.
And so it's just finding the path that we're meant, and we know our mission a lot of times because that's how we are with people. That's how
Hmm.
we are with people. And sometimes, like, I have an understanding of somebody is a teacher because she's opposite.
Hmm.
A lot of times opposite. And that opposite, even though it's hurtful, even though that mirror isn't very comfortable to look at, but they learn a lot from that opposite.
Hmm. Yeah, they sure do. Um, one thing my stepkids always appreciated about my ex and I was the way when it was time for us to part ways. And we were together for 10 years. And when we decided to go our separate ways, was the way that we did it, because we did it without any malice. And, I think through the whole 6 or 8 month process, it's like we got emotional like one time and then we quickly got back on the wagon, here. But I've had numerous times different of my 4 daughters mentioned that helped them so much when they had relationships, like they were dating and things, when it was time to go, and they realized that the relationship could end in a loving way when it was just time that it came to its natural course, and there didn't have to be name calling, and didn't have to be all this negative things. So that made me feel good, because I know we really tried hard at the time to do it in a loving, good way. And since we were both on board, it was able to work. If you're in a relationship and one of them wants to do it and one wants to let all hell break loose, it could really mess up the kids, sometimes. So anyway, that just that made me feel good. It says, well, we did something right.
Check that box off. Did something right.
Yeah.
Like I tease with my husband, is that that our kids are gonna have to put on the tombstone. Well, she tried.
Yeah, she tried.
But she always loved.
Yeah, and for me to do my mission, which I feel that I'm doing now, everything that came before was to prepare me for doing this mission of the work I'm doing now. So the hardships I went through, the lessons I learned, the addictions I went through and had to conquer, it was all to get me to this point. So, one thing I found too, when people are on the other side and they're asked the counsel in heaven and they say, okay, am I doing my mission? Almost all the time they go, yes, and, like people are doing it, even though they're not consciously knowing it. I mean, the people they're with, the jobs that they have, the difficulties they're going through, that they are on their mission. Occasionally they'll say, well, you could step it up a bit. You're getting a little, the counsel might say, you might think about putting a little more effort into there or something, but people are surprised sometimes. They go, wow, I guess I am right in the middle of my mission, on whatever it is.
Well, that's the thing about life is that no matter what we're doing why we're here.
Yeah.
No matter what's happening to us, we're doing why we're here. And that is to learn. Now, personal choices has a little bit of self-reflection in that, to give you an understanding that there's a lot of us that do struggle with addictions and do struggle with different scenarios because of seeds that were planted when we were younger, or self-doubt that was planted, or or just in there, even our DNA of our bodies, not necessarily asked for that journey of addictions, yet it was easier to fall into because the body was not okay with it, but the DNA was set up for that domino, and our life pattern would set up that domino, which kind of helped that happen. Because I know that for me, that witnessing some of families, that addiction is pretty strong through a lot of the families.
Yeah.
And that is in the DNA. Now, there's some people who don't fall into that scenario because their life didn't call for them to do it. Like for me, I feel like that my body did have a scenario for addiction, yet at the same time, when I was very young, I mean, I don't remember how young, 5, 6 years old, I heard the words, "Don't start it unless you want to stop it." Don't start something you're going to have to stop.
Yeah.
And having that in my knowing, don't start something that you have to stop. It was like, oh, okay, so cigarettes. I'm not going to have to want to go through that.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good thing to tell kids.
Yeah.
you know?
And I do. You don't want to start something you're going to have to stop.
Yeah, like people can't believe, I was in a rock band in the 60s, the lead guitar player, and we traveled around and stuff. Um, and everybody was smoking pot but me, like we'd sit in the car before a thing and everybody's just, and they'd hand it to me. And it was my strict Catholic upbringing, that did that. But now at this time in my life, I've been around people and we'll go places and they'll do a little cocaine or they'll do a drug or something. And so, whatever. And they always offer me some. And I said, no, I don't even want to try it because I know I have an addictive personality, and why do I want to start something I can't stop? Why do I want to create a problem that might be there? So it makes me feel good. Not, at the same time, I'm trying to be nice to them. I don't want them to make them feel guilty or bad. But I say, no, go ahead and enjoy it. Or I'll say, forget what I say. But no, go ahead. I don't go, no, that's not my thing. Or
Yeah.
shame on you for doing it, because everybody's got their road, that they're doing it. So I feel good.
Yeah, because I know that we all have some, like for me, I can say that in my life path, my life calling was to find out how to be me no matter what my circumstance was in this path of life.
Mhm.
So to be me no matter what presented itself. Now my life path with others is to be teacher. Now many of us can have the theme of teacher, but how do we teach is our specific signature, is our own signature on how we teach. And that's the gift that each person can give. So don't feel bad if you feel like you're the cliche word of teacher, but how do you teach? Because your experiences can only teach the way you know how to teach.
Yeah. I saw, I'm trying to think if it's on Netflix or Prime, probably Netflix. Oh, wait a minute. It was these two young boys, and they would go around to different places that are in America that people have never really heard of, and they would interview people. Like they went to the place in California where you can go. It's like the little city that they have themselves, where there's no rules and law. Well, they have some general rules, but they've done documentaries about this place. Like it's the one place people can go, and if there's a space that's open, you just pull in your trailer, and they live like a little town, and it's just totally living off the grid. People there to just talk about the freedom that they have with, to just be themselves, or to, darn. But anyway, these two boys, they did a documentary on that. And then they went to a little city, I think it's in Iowa. And it's a city that was built entirely around, it was not Buddhist, but Buddhist or Hindu, but they have this place this huge meeting place where they do meditation and stuff, and then they have all these orderly streets of new houses and things all around there. And they designed it so the schools, it was so impressed with the schools that during the day, the kids have meditation every day during school as part of their training, and it shows all the kids that come they go into the big, you could have 400 or 500 people in this meditation place, and the kids are all taught to learn to relax, to learn to go within themselves. And so it's like a social experiment almost, but they're doing it because they wanted to have a community of like-minded people. And so far it's been very successful. They've been very, very successful. And people are visiting there wanting to mirror part of that in their lives, so it'll be interesting to see, like 20 years down the line, how those children are compared to other people when they're teenagers or something, when they've learned that we're not just this body, and they practice it every day,
Well, I can tell you there's still going to be lessons and experiences that everybody learns that they wish they would have changed when they were younger.
I know.
Because you can't escape life. You can't escape life and the experience of it. And how we negotiate that in our mind is part of the process. And I'm hoping that those kids that grow up in there have more tools to help them negotiate the way life is. I mean, because life is going to be life. And we we are on this day of Martin Luther King's
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
holiday birthday, and I know that his
Forgot.
birthday was another day,
Yeah.
but the way we celebrate it, and I know that people think that I should know what I'm doing. I know my mission right away, and there's some people that they don't know their mission until they're laying in their deathbed. You
Yeah.
know, and that's
Well,
because that how they were supposed to be, just 3D world in this. My mission is to learn how to be in the 3D world, and I don't need to experience any more spirituality. It's just, let me be what I am to be, and that's all I'm going to be. And many people now can't do that as well as they did through other times in society.
yeah. Now, and look at Martin Luther King. His mission, it was amazing. Look at the change what he did in his way. And that's why sometimes people think, well, I guess I don't have a mission because I'm not Gandhi or I'm not Martin Luther King. I'm not Jesus. I'm just this
Or
ordinary
Hitler.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so some people's missions and things that come down here are to, what we would say on a grandiose scale, of change. But I think in the Bible there's something about, God cares about the little tiny sparrow just as much as he does the other stuff,
Mhm.
So um, um, don't feel, if you're listening to this, don't feel because you don't have a grandiose kind of mission where you're making these big changes that what you have to offer is not as valuable as like what Gandhi did or what Martin Luther King did. I
Mhm.
mean, some people came into this world just to, like I knew of a woman, and she decided to come down to birth, to bring a certain soul into the world so that she could teach him growing up, is just being the mom. And that was her mission, just to help one soul.
Mhm.
What we find out in our life between life sessions too, our soul group, or these souls that we incarnate with on a regular basis, a lot of times they'll come down into our life and play just a minor role. They'll give their whole life up just to come down to be in our life for just a little bit of a time to help us to learn something. And
Mhm.
that's just shows you how much love there is on the other side and how much souls want to help each other, you know, that way. So,
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to go back to somebody like Martin Luther King, because he, as someone, was still human going through the experiences. His actions were miraculous. Being able to step up and do those things that he did in front of all those people and hold that. But yet at the same time, though, there's these little stories that come out. Well, he did this and he did that. But that's part of being human.
yeah,
That's that human experience while doing our mission. And can somebody hold that much experience and be perfect everywhere else in their life?
no,
And I'm not saying that it's okay what some people do, but I'm just saying, though, that we when we're working into navigating what is our mission, remembering that we are human doing this spiritual experience, that we do have this physical body that sometimes triggers us into eating too much chocolate, for lack of a better word, having one more glass of wine than we should. And then that was a domino effect that something else happened. It's we're in that process of learning life and doing life. And, there again is going back to that balance of being and doing. Being and doing. I had a really rough day and I really need a glass of wine. And okay, but why? And how can we do it consciously?
yeah,
How can we make decisions consciously? Just like that, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to teach this person how to do things right. Well, is that the right integrity? Is that the better integrity? Is that the kind integrity? Well, no. Now I'm going to tell you with tough love, that's not the better thing to do. It's that process of balancing. It's the process of balancing.
yeah,
We're going to do it perfectly imperfect. We're going to do
yeah.
it perfectly imperfect.
And that's where forgiveness comes in. Why we need to forgive each other. Because if you just looked at all of us, we'd all have a whole bunch of bad, or I'd say a whole bunch of character flaws that we're trying to get better, and we make some goofs along the way. We all need to support each other and to forgive each other for, just as I don't know why I keep bringing up the Christian stuff today. I guess that's because I grew up that way, but what would come to mind is, was our Father, let us forgive our sins as we forgive others for theirs.
Yes.
Gosh, it's been a long time since our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The kingdom come.
Thy will be done
as earth is on heaven. And then what's the part? Then the part I want to say.
To give us this day to. I just went out.
Okay, someone listening is going to have it there. But anyway, the whole idea was forgive ourselves, forgive others.
Yeah.
And that's it's hard.
That's that moment. And like today, I said something yesterday that could have been misunderstood. And I have a responsibility to holding higher integrity, and I respect that and honor that. The thing that I did this morning was that I physically sent an information that I apologize for what I did, and if it was misunderstood, I apologize. And then what I did was I released holding it on my shoulders, that I was responsible for fixing it. I released it on my shoulders. And then I'm still processing it in my mind. And so with that I released it, let the universe do the fixing that you need to do, let things happen the way that they're supposed to. I'm not responsible for doing that, but I'm responsible for how I stand in, okay, I did a flubble. How can I right this flubble? I call mistakes flubbles now because I don't I don't make mistakes. I make flubbles. And
did you call flubbles?
Flubbles. F-U-L.
I like that.
F-U-B-B-L-E-S.
That sounds like a good thing. Like when you have children, says, "Oh, did you flubble? Did you goof that up?"
No.
Did you make a big mistake?
Exactly, flubbles. And like I tell the students, because this word came up when I have a dyslexic. First English is not her first language, and she's like, I made another mistake, and I'm like, going, how can you be making mistakes? English is your second language, and you're dyslexic. You're making flubbles, my dear. You don't make mistakes. You don't know to do better. How can you be making a mistake when you don't know how to do better?
That was kind of you.
Flubbles. And she goes, kind of like that, because how can you be? Flubbles. You can't do it without a smile.
I know. It's got even the letters there together. That sound. Of course, we're used to like bubbles. That sort of sound is always a happy sound.
Exactly. So, well, my team gave it to me at that moment, and it was like, thank you. And that's my theme is that okay, be respectful of the flubbles I make and the repercussions of them. Yet at the same time, though, the universe is responsible for my flubbles as well as I am.
It's funny, being a comedian for 30 years, I was just picturing this guy come home from work and confessing to his wife, says, honey, I just did a flubble. I slept with my secretary. Sorry. See how that flubble goes over, right?
No, there is choices that we make that are not good, but the generalness of life and making, it's like learning how to drive. How can you make mistakes learning? It's a cliche. It's a self-punishment that the circle that we're on. That yes, we have to be conscious. Yes, we have to make choices. Yes, we have to be responsible and in respect of others, and have intention and kindness. Yet, it's like, I didn't do right, but I don't want to say that was a mistake, because that was your perception of my doing wrong.
Yeah.
Is that perception right?
Yeah.
Or is it just yours?
Yeah.
We can overthink life really easily by our words. But there again is that's why I guess the universe brought in the word flubble for me, because it does shift that in between. No, you're not making a flubble when you sleep with someone and not your partner, right?
Yeah.
That's a choice. It's not a mistake. It's a choice.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, I once heard a therapist say to a client, he said, well, we had this office party and I was drinking or something. And you know what? I just got so drunk and I slept with this, whatever. And the therapist said to him, well, how drunk would you have to be to sleep with your mother? Like you made a choice there. You
Yeah,
can't blame that. There was a point where you knew consciously, or if it was like Barney the dinosaur, yeah, would you still have had sex? No,
exactly. There's a
you
part
make
of
a
us that
choice.
would say, heck no, heck
Yeah,
no.
we
And
know, we
then,
know what we're doing,
mhm.
So, but we like to, I think we've all been there when we've done flubbles and having to come clean about it or have to make amends for some of the
Mhm.
stuff,
But
and
that's called life, and
yeah,
that's that part of our self mission. Because there are almost two missions. What is our self purpose for being here?
yeah,
And what is the purpose of being here on the planet? The breath in, the breath
yeah,
out.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And learning these certain scenarios is part of that self lesson.
Yeah,
Like for me to accept and to be me no matter what is put in front of me,
yeah, um,
and there's been some push and pull with that. A lot of push and pull with that sometimes. And
mhm.
and but yet I'm here.
Yeah.
I, I'm
Well,
I'm here.
see, and I think the way you can tell if you're making progress in life is you think about the flubbles that you made when you take 20 years ago and you look at your life now and you think, okay, are you flubbling less
Hmm.
or whatever? And you look back and you go, wow, I'm not goofing up as much as I used to. I'm not making as many wrong choices. It gives you that feeling that you've matured, that
Hmm.
it's a process. So we can't all expect, like if I was looking at myself when I was 22, 23, and where I feel like I am now. I mean, sometimes I look back and I go, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? But I understand that I was just not, I hadn't matured enough. I hadn't been knocked around by life enough in a way to learn
Hmm.
those lessons. I knew my heart was always good. I didn't ever feel like I did anything ever evil. But, there were times I made some biggies, and I paid for them. So, you know,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about life is that I'm reading this one book, and it's just a general book um about witches, and it's kind of like it's in the same category as like the cliche romance novel. You're just reading a book to read a book, but there's always something in it that I like to learn from. And this book is about three witches, and they have coven, and they're finding magic that they never thought they would. And they talk about one of the characters talks about having fate, and she says, I've decided to bring Miss Fate, Lady Fate, and bring her to the table and have dinner with her because of the fact that she's here to help me learn my experiences, support me in that journey by bringing people into my life that either can be helpful or they're detrimental. So I learn the difference. And then Lady Fate, if I'm more friends with her, I see that, oh, her journey actually led me through the drama of life, so that I can see that the wisdom that I have now is more of a gift. Because if I would have
mhm.
had it all along, I wouldn't see, oh man, somebody cooking dinner when they really didn't want to is actually a gift instead of an expectation, because I've learned the experiences I had beforehand. And
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting how she was labeling Lady Fate and bringing her to the table instead of pushing her off. No, I don't want Fate. I don't want Fate. Well, Fate's going to be here no matter what. And if we can
Hmm.
dance with her a little bit more and enjoy I don't want to say enjoy, but uh, navigate with the experience with a little bit more grace, I've gotten some wording. I'm asking for my life to have understanding, uh, gifts with grace and loving ease. And loving ease, because I want life to have, I'm willing to learn the lessons. I've shown that. Yet at the same time, can I have it with somebody who's loving and kind? And I can tell you that's happening different. That's happening different. I'm not getting the harsh beat over the head lessons as much.
Yeah, that's kind of the same with it too. Well, it's the same thing we use in even in regular psychology that we do. Like if I have clients in regular therapy session and we're doing guided visualization or hypnosis, and where you go back and your higher self now, or you who are who you are right now, goes back in your imagination and talks to your younger self, and it's just amazing how that works so good, because it's almost like by doing that you update your software from that of being a kid, and you're stuck in that thing that you did that makes it seem like you're still a kid and you're still acting like a kid when you're 60 years old, and you go back and talk to it in your higher self now, tell that little kid, hey, you don't have to worry about that anymore, what happened, because you see things in a bigger picture now, and everything's going to be okay. You're not going to die. This isn't going to happen. You have this fear now, and look at me. You tell them to, tell the little kid, look at, I'm your older self, and I'm a lot wiser and smarter and all that. So, and then you give yourself a hug. People in their, our imaginations, or where people can go in there, is the most powerful, beautiful thing to experience. It's just unlimited, the amount of power you have, so anyway, a lot of healing like that happens,
I know. I personally had an experience of that today. Well, Mercury's in retrograde right now, and
seems like it's always in retrograde.
I know. Well, it's 3 times a year, and it's what, 9 weeks out of every time we're doing it, and so that's a quarterly, almost quarterly here. 3s that. And mine's about communication. Well, mine's about communication with my dyslexic self, and I'm trying to do my newsletter, and that's always a trigger for me, because
wow.
My dyslexic part is almost learning English as a first language, when it was like its third and fourth language.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm doing something, and I have people who wonderfully work through it with me, but yet that experience is not always easy, because getting triggered by my younger self, who says, I don't want to do this anymore. Do we have to write a newsletter every month and get triggered? And I'm going, yes, actually we do, because that's part of our professionalism. That's part of us doing what we are meant to do on this planet, is to be me. And all parts of me have to come along for the ride. And so as she's and it took me maybe another hour to get what I was going to do done, because I had to get up and just distract for a minute, so I didn't fall into the rabbit hole again, type of thing. But it's just kind of interesting how you do that, and it was kind of funny, because I love synchronicity, and that while I was listening to the radio, I had to turn on it was the 80s music that I was told to listen to, and so here was Michael Jackson's the Man in the Mirror. So look in the mirror. You have to do and then it was Survivor, the Eye of the Tiger. So you could look at the mirror, and then you can be the survivor, right? And then Bette Midler's Under My Wings came on next, and then there was another song about dance.
Wow.
And it was just funny. The foursome was just like, got to look at yourself in order to be the survivor, so that you can dance on the wings of what reality is. And it was, okay, I get it. Well, I put that little bit in the newsletter, because that helped me, my higher self helped my dyslexic self come into the neutrality of me. Does that make sense? And so my higher self saw what my inner self needed to see to be able to persevere through that moment. And I was grateful for that, because the person I was working through with this before helped me get there too, so I can be on that platform to have a good foundation. But
Hmm.
life is about that. Life is about negotiating our way through what's happening. And I can tell you that everybody can have that synchronicity if we're willing to look for it,
Hmm.
because that is that part of our inner calling is to do. And we have teams and we have life that does help us in that way if we're willing to look for it.
Hmm. One way that can kind of help. Now, what we found out in the 65,000 people, as I always mentioned, that have been to the other side and back through the life between life sessions, um, we found out across the board that everybody has a guide or an angel or someone that's assigned to them. It's
Hmm.
someone that, like now, if you're listening to the show, that presence of that being that's there for you is there.
Hmm.
And once you become aware of that, then you begin to hear the whispers in a way, through your intuition, through things, miracles, like little miracles, like you're talking about the songs that are coming on, things like that. That's a very common way that they get to you, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so even if no one, goes to the Newton Institute or doesn't call you and doesn't actually get to talk to their guide or know the name of their guide, just knowing that the research now that we've done research actually with all these 65,000 people show that everybody's got somebody watching over them.
Hmm.
Someone's looking after your best interest. They won't get in your way. They're waiting for you to wake up, you know. But once you do begin to wake up, and we're hoping people watching this program that Tasha and I are doing, we hope that as you begin to wake up, you start to experience life in a whole different way. Like in other words, you don't get rid of difficulties, but you find a way to deal with them in a lot healthier, a less
Hmm.
damaging way.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so you begin to have a life full of craziness, but in the middle of the craziness, you would say you're happy. You know
Hmm.
that way. Um, like there's different, I've heard it different ways, but a guru once told me 30 40 years 40 50 years ago, oh my god, 40 years ago, that that the whole idea is to become spiritually aware enough to where you could be calm in the middle of a tornado. In other words, everything's okay as things are just being torn up all around you, and you're okay. So
Actually, I'm pretty lucky, I think, because my way of life, I usually freak out after things happen.
yeah.
I'm pretty calm during the moment. There's a part of me that's witnessing, going, go over here, go over here, go over here. And I
Yeah.
can tell you that I've had a gun pulled on me. I've had car accidents where somebody was driving up behind me, and I just go, I'm praying that they go to the side. I'm praying that they're going to the side. I'm praying that they go to the side. And they do. I see them, the car come this way. It's like it's amazing how in the middle of life that it's like, okay,
You can
okay.
make clear. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how people can be like they're going through some kind of trauma, like men in the battlefield or something,
Mhm.
and they're going through it, and someone will say, well, during the battle, they didn't feel fear or anything. They were doing their body just came together. They were doing what they had to do. But a week later, a month later, a year later,
Yeah,
10 years
that's
later,
when that's when it
that's
went.
when it hits them. Yeah. And again, uh, EFT, emotional freedom technique, EFT works really good for post-traumatic stress for people that want just regular
Mhm.
therapy. It's on my website. You can see a few or four veterans that have severe post-traumatic stress, and in 4 sessions of EFT, they feel like they have their lives back again. Where some of them thought they would never have it, never have it. It really
Mhm.
works powerful. So.
Being able to breathe and walk upright for a lot of people is huge. It's huge. My
Mhm,
love goes to them. So Regan, we're coming down to the end. I hope that
mhm.
this conversation that we had, I know it was simple, and I know that, there wasn't much, but that's that part of life about when we're wanting to find our mission. Like I tell people, start being. And being a witness of how you're being, Okay, so Sue
Oh, Susan.
says,
Hey, Susan.
do you want to read? Go ahead and read,
Oh, okay.
please.
I'm curious about my life's purpose. I've felt it has to do with healing. And at this point in my life, I wonder if I have enough time left to have a healing practice. Or would my future more likely include sharing my story, but not developing a healing practice? That's a really good question, Susan. I mean, I have people come to me all the time that way when they're on the other side and they ask pretty much that same question, because a lot of people don't wake up to their higher spirituality until they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then part of you goes, God, why? My body's ready to fall apart. Why didn't I know this when I was younger? Well, it's not how it happens. I know a lot of people who started healing practices and doing kind of the work we're doing, and they started late in life. Look, I didn't really start this till I was 60. So I'm 72 now. So when I was 67, maybe is when, I mean, I'd been doing hypnotherapy and all that, but I didn't come into this really helpful spiritual work until really late in life. And I can see doing this now until I die. I mean, and the healing practices, you don't have to be like a quarterback that can only have the young
Mm-hmm.
body to do it at a certain time. And I think sometimes people that get in the healing fields are much better healers as they become older because they're more mature and they've kind of found themselves more.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
they're differently grounded, so they can hold space differently. So, Sue, I would say yes and yes.
yeah,
That I would say that if your soul is calling you to do, and it has, I know, been a witness of her for quite a while, that your soul has called you to do the hypnosis. You've gone through enough practice of it, and that I think that you could just go to school and just remind yourself of getting the technicalities of it.
yeah, that's
And I know that and then if you wanted to do this, if you wanted to hook up like with somebody like the Newton Institute, you would start gaining clients through the process of that. And
right.
would you want to do that full time? Would you want to do it as a younger person, have a client from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night? No, you
No,
probably don't. And so with that yes and yes, you're meant to share your story, and if sharing your story leads you to doing a practice like going to some schooling and doing the Newton Institute, or another one, I'm not calling it just
right.
that one,
It could be anything. Yeah.
it could be anything, that follow that path no matter what your timeline is, no matter what your timeline is. And I have an understanding that you're coming to a part in your own healing process where getting outside of yourself and doing something that has logistics will help get the brain synapses blending again, if that makes any sense to, and I know it will to her,
Yeah.
that when we're doing something, you've done a lot of spiritual work. Now it's time to do the physical work. And I know that your life, like for me, my kids are old enough now where I can spend time doing me, and my husband can take care of himself. Now I'm not having to take care of a family anymore.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have to respect having a relationship. You know what I mean? It's not taking care of a family, it's respecting have a relationship. So honoring those times. But now I have time to do and negotiate what I need to do to make myself feel purposeful. And
Yeah.
that's the part of life is that having a purpose on life, which our soul will lead us through that journey if we're meant to. And so sharing your story, doing what you're doing, and I feel like that yes, you can go to school. Now I wouldn't go to the 4-year college. I would do like
Yeah.
a more fine lined, streamlined scenario. But I feel like that you can do some work with people and be magical at it
Does
and with it.
is part of her, since you know her well, is part of her what she wants to learn to do involving learning to do hypnosis? In other words, the
Yeah.
process of it? Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna say
Uh,
yes because it would weave in there somewhere.
yeah, okay. There online, there's a lot of places you can get schooling and everything from, and some of them are really expensive, like 3,000, 4,000 bucks they want. Or there's the HMI. They have an online course, HMI. They're probably the best known hypnotherapy school United States, and they're credited, and you can get loans, or some just given to you and stuff like that. But there are some. It's not that hard to like. When I went there for 2 years, and the first weekend they taught us how to hypnotize people, because hypnosis is so easy. It's a natural process. People, like, when I have them go to these other lives and past lives and all that, it's about 90% of people just do it. It's because it's a natural process. But then it's learning what to do once they are in trance. Then you have to learn what to do.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
what takes a little bit.
responsibility.
Responsibility, right? Mhm.
Holding
But
space.
it's not, Susan. It's not as hard as it maybe looks. It's much, much easier. And once you realize that, it really, really helps.
Mhm.
But
So Kathy says,
oh, there's Kathy. Rock.
hello, Kathy.
Rocks.
So when messing with other people's minds, it is best training. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
True, Kathy. Yeah. The main thing that Susan, you'd want to do is just, because sometimes when people are in hypnosis, if it's just regular, if they're not even
Thank you,
doing
Kathy,
past
for
life
pointing
stuff,
that out.
yeah,
Mhm.
you have to learn certain techniques. So, because sometimes people have ab reactions, which means, see if they're going back to childhood, and all of a sudden they're remembering something they had forgot, and it's traumatizing. Well, you have to be able to really quickly with them just say, okay, 1, 2, 3. You're out of your body watching it happen rather than being in the body,
Mhm.
and they will make the choice. And so you keep them from having to re-traumatizing somebody. And
Yes. Yeah,
that
and I have an understanding that Sue has that integrity, that
yeah,
she would hold that space of knowing. She's gone through hypnosis, for the last, let's say, 15 years herself. So she understands the
they
process
understand that.
of going through childhood trauma and
Yeah,
what can pop up. And that's the thing is that when we're going through our life calling and our life mission, it is about that we are going to have a ripple effect with people around us. And that's why I was saying that it's not necessarily that when we're a teacher, it is checking out about our path and how we do it. What is our integrity? What is our personal mission with having a conversation? Is it selfishness, or is it about the bigger picture? And checking in with self, it does help negotiate whys. The why are we going through this? Where are we going to go with this? What's the reason for this? Like, for sometimes I feel like my mission is to be a seed planter.
yeah.
That's my style of teaching, is to be a seed planter. And seed planters, we plant the information, and then we let it go and let
Let
the
it
other
go where it
person be
goes.
let it happen. And there's many times, like on the playground, I'll say 3 sentences to a kid, and they'll come back to me, 5 years later, and go, "You were the woman on the duty on the playground that said da 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 da, weren't you?" And I go, "Yes."
Uh-huh.
"You changed my life." And I go, "I did." Because all I said was basically, I don't like all the rules, but I got to follow them anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that was the seed that I planted at that time, that the universe tilled the dirt, managed those lessons to come out and say, "Oh yes, I do have to
Yeah.
respect the rules about life, don't we?" And so we're all in this process of life and managing life. And all we can do is remember that as we're walking through life, remember to be and do. And if you can do that with some kindness and with some good intention, you're going to be ahead of the game 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And
So
Susan, yeah, check out
go ahead.
EMDR, or you probably know about that, and EFT. If you know, and both of those can be learned pretty easily, and then you practice it and you get good at it. But they're easy to learn, and they're highly effective, highly, highly effective in treating people for all sorts of things, or helping them to change things. So if you have hypnosis, EFT, EMDR, you could pretty much cover anybody's issues or problems. And the nice thing about all three of them is you don't have to be, in most states, you don't have to have licenses, because you're doing a self-help or helping. Like the National Association of Hypnotherapy has gone to court in all the states, and I don't know if there's any state where you have to actually have, you might have to have a business license to do your business, but you don't have to have a therapy license, because you're just like what Natasha does or what I do, and that you don't, so you don't have as many hoops to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good, Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Susan, if you go on to the Newton Institute website and just look at the women that are on there, and you're going to see most of them are going to look just like you that are doing this work right now. There's some younger
Beautiful.
ones. There's
Beautiful
some young,
people.
beautiful. Yeah. They're, a lot of them are, they're over 50 for sure, 60, 70 years old, and they're loving doing this work.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so Kathy says, go ahead.
Many don't realize as we live our lives, we make choices that can actually be called a healing practice. In Washington, I think that's what she means.
Yeah.
You need a license of some sort for anything hands-on. Minister license works.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can say that I have a ministry license myself.
Yeah.
And so, thanks, Regan. That I do have a ministry license so that I can, because I do Reiki, I do other
Okay.
practices that are more hands-on. And so that gives me that grace
hmm
to be able to counsel in a spiritual way.
Yeah. I have heard of that. Sometimes if your practice has anything to do with touching at all, it sometimes goes under a different category, that way.
Mhm. Yeah. And Reiki is not touching, but there is that interaction
Yeah.
with the physical
Interaction
body.
that way.
And doing counseling is part of the mind, which is part of the body. So
Yeah.
with that, but we are at that time.
Oh, we
my
went over
dear.
again. Okay. I'm so glad
Well, go
we
ahead.
had all three of our favorites here today.
Yes.
That's great.
Well, we have many favorites, but yes,
Yeah.
we have thank you for chiming in. Conversations bring out the greater good of a perspective.
Yeah.
And a how people perceive things. We have so many different ways of navigating life that it's amazing to have help with that. So thank you. Okay, so what does Kathy say here? Ministry license also covers counseling.
Counseling.
Yes.
It does, yeah.
I was told that early in my practice, that because with my dyslexia, going to counseling school and doing the years that would take, it would have taken me double to do that, just
Yeah.
because my brain and my writing, I couldn't imagine going through school again.
Yeah. And having the minister license, then you can marry and bury, so.
Exactly. And anything in between. And
Right.
it was the universe's quick way of saying, please be you. And here you have it, and that's where I had to listen. That was going to be enough. Now I've thought about going back and doing life coaching schooling, and I keep hearing, no, you don't have to spend the money to do that licensing. So thank you very much, Regan, for being here. And I hope that everybody has a gifted Martin Luther King. It went so fast. And we have the full moon, which is about endings. So how are we going to negotiate some of these endings? I had a few today that I was working on. How are we going to complete those endings, which is always a circle coming around, but yet how can we say, I'm kind of in a lighter moment with that than I used to be. So how can people get you, Regan?
Well, through visittheafterlife.com. I know our three friends that were calling in today know all about what I do and everything. But for those that are listening to this now, or they haven't before, or later on down the line, because these will all be online, go to visittheafterlife.com. There's some great videos there. My main focus is on spirituality, and it's helping people experience past lives, but to go beyond that. And we're trained with the Newton Institute. People don't realize that in a really deep state of trance, which almost anybody can reach, we found it's now possible for people to go to the place they go between lives. People call it heaven, the afterlife, or whatever. And you're going to spend a few hours there just with a guide, an angel. There's all kinds of things you can do over there, and things you can learn and questions you can ask, get answers to. You just get the why to a lot of things. Like when you're talking to Natasha, she can help you get the why to things. And that's what we want as human beings sometimes. We just kind of want to know why. If we know why, we can kind of do it a little bit easier. So go to visittheafterlife.com. Watch. There's a bunch of videos on regular therapy, on the spiritual therapy, and have any questions. I'm still giving away the book. Actually, if anybody's watching this now, just say, hey, I heard with Natasha and you, they heard that I have 2 books on there, and you can have them for free if you like, ebooks. One is about my journey to the afterlife and back, called 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven. And then I have one, it's called Reincarnation is Real. And it's about all the research that's been done that proves that it's real. What about you?
Well, I wanted to catch Kathy, because Kathy says, I hear Elise singing.
Do you know who Elise is? Or is it Elsa? Is it Elsa or Elise? Elsa singing.
It's Elsa singing. It's Elsa singing. Well, we she was with me some of the day today, and so we were talking about music and how music was playing into the synchronicities of life. So it was funny. It was funny. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Kathy. Oh, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I love it. Thank you for clarifying, Kathy. I appreciate Kathy. I love Kathy. I love everyone. You guys have all been amazing. So I'm Natasha Venter. You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. I love my soul calling is to be with people and help them step to another idea about life, another understanding about life, another understanding about them, bringing in some of the pieces of, I've had people who sit there and go, I had 4 different questions, but you answered all of them within that 10 minutes, because I put the pieces together of their life, and it was interesting to they were like, they're almost scratching, like, how did you do that? That's my soul calling, is that I get those images and seeing things. And I love to do that. So blessings to everyone. Please reach me at angelicclarifications.com. And until the end of this month, which is just a couple weeks, that I still have my special on my hour session. So if you want to go to angelicclarifications.com, you will see that. And that is on until the end of January of 2022. So we are here Mondays and Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Mondays is Regan and I, and Wednesdays is just me, unless I have a guest on. And I would be grateful to have guests on if they would like to be. So with that you can reach us here, and please like or share or click whatever the platform is that you're on.
Subscribe.
It's so hard. Subscribe, whatever that platform. I'm getting to be where, let's see, I'm posting my nightly posts on 6 different platforms now. So it's interesting, the language. It's interesting, the language. My love goes to everyone. I know Regan's love goes to you too. And we're here to give a perspective, and doing what we're doing here is to be in a loving way for guidance. Blessings to you. See you next Monday.
Next week. Bye.
Bye.